We don't always notice the moment something slips out of alignment. Sometimes it happens quietly, in a room dressed up to celebrate the right achievement, while missing another one entirely. That was the night this story took shape. Elise Warren works in public service, the kind of role that keeps systems running and people supported without applause. What happened to her didn't unfold through shouting or scandal. It unfolded through a mission. This is how she remembers it. The first thing I noticed was the applause. Not loud, not wild, controlled, polite. The kind that comes from people who know exactly when to clap and when to stop. My father stood near the head table, glass raised, smiling the smile he'd practiced for decades. 35 years at the firm. That's what the banner said. The room smelled like polished wood and citrus cleaner. My mother leaned in close to him and whispered, "Smile, Stephen. Everyone's watching." Connor was already halfway through a story near the bar. "I'm telling you, they don't hand out bonuses like that unless you really matter," he said, his voice carrying, "21,000 this year. Pre-tax, obviously, but still." Someone laughed. Someone else said, "That's impressive." My mother turned her head toward him, proud, glowing. "That's my son," she said, not quietly. I stood a few steps back, fingers wrapped around the stem of my glass. White wine. Too cold. I didn't mind. Connor caught my eye briefly. "You good?" "Elise?" I nodded. "Yeah, I'm good." The quartet near the windows shifted into something softer. Plates clinked, chairs scraped. Everything moved forward. Then my grandfather's voice cut through it, calm and unhurried. "Elise," Arthur said, "did your property tax bill come early this year?" The room didn't stop. Not right away. It just slowed. I took a breath. "Yeah, it did." My mother turned fast. "Arthur," she said, smiling too quickly. "Elise rents." Arthur looked at her, then back at me. "No," he said. "She doesn't." Someone nearby cleared their throat. Connor frowned. I kept my voice even. "It was about 6,200 this year." A pause. Not dramatic, just heavy. From the edge of the room, it was already clear who had prepared for this night, and who hadn't prepared for what would surface once the noise faded. I set my glass down. If this story stays with you, it's because moments like this tend to feel familiar to more people than they admit. You don't have to react. Just listen. Connor didn't notice the shift right away. He was still riding the wave of attention, shoulders loose, one hand wrapped around his drink like it belonged there. "I mean, it's not just the bonus," he went on, leaning against the bar. "They're talking about putting me on a bigger project next quarter. Bigger visibility." My mother nodded along, eyes bright. "That's how it starts. People notice when you put in the work." Connor smiled at that. "Exactly." Someone nearby asked where the new SUV was parked. Connor pointed toward the valet stand like it was a stage cue. "Right out front. Still smells new." Laughter followed. Easy. Comfortable. I stayed where I was, close enough to hear, far enough not to be pulled in. The stem of my glass was slick with condensation. I wiped my fingers on a napkin and folded it once. Then again. My father shifted beside me. "You doing okay?" "Yeah," I said. "It's your night." He smiled, relieved, and turned back toward the crowd before the moment could stretch. Connor glanced over again. "You quiet tonight," he said. "Everything good at work?" "Busy," I answered. "That library stuff still steady." "Steady." He nodded like that settled it and turned back to the group. The conversation rolled on without me. It always did. My grandfather hadn't moved. He stood a little apart, hands clasped behind his back, watching Connor the way people watch fireworks after the loudest one goes off. Patient, thoughtful. Connor lifted his glass. "To family," he said, "and to Dad." Everyone echoed it. Glasses clinked. Applause rose again, neat and timed. I felt it then. Not anger. Something flatter, like being filed down by repetition. We've seen this kind of moment before, not explosive, just quietly decisive. My mother leaned toward Connor and lowered her voice, though it still carried, "You should talk to Mark later. He loves hearing about success stories." Connor grinned. "Happy to." I watched my father's face as he looked at Connor. Pride, plain and open. No calculation, just warmth. Arthur cleared his throat softly. "Elise," he said again. Gentle. "You said the bill came early." The sound of my name landed differently this time. Connor stopped mid-sip. My mother's smile tightened. I met Arthur's eyes. It did. I said, "County reassessment." Connor frowned. Reassessment of what I felt the weight of the room settle. Slow and unavoidable. I took a breath, steadying myself. The house. No one laughed this time. The word hung there longer than I expected. Connor lowered his glass slowly. "The house," he repeated. "What house?" My mother stepped in before I could answer. "Elise," she said, light and quick. "Arthur's mixing things up. She means the place she's staying. The rental." Arthur didn't raise his voice. He never did. "No," he said. "I don't." My father's brow creased. "What are you talking about?" Arthur shifted his weight, hands still folded behind his back. "She bought on Maple Ridge Drive. I helped her repaint the living room after the flood. Remember that call?" "Elise." "The one about the water heater," I nodded once. "I remember." Connor let out a short laugh that didn't land. "Hold on. You bought a house?" My mother shook her head, already halfway through the explanation. No. She looked at a place. Years ago, it didn't work out. Arthur turned to her. It did work out. The string quartet kept playing. A server moved past us with a tray of empty glasses, eyes fixed straight ahead. My father rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Elise," he said, quieter now. "Why wouldn't we know about this?" I felt that familiar pressure behind my ribs, the one that shows up when something simple gets complicated by other people's discomfort. I mentioned it. I said, "A few times." My mother's mouth opened, then closed. "You said you moved," she offered. "We thought it was temporary." Connor frowned. "Yeah, I thought you were renting." Arthur looked between them, confusion giving way to something heavier. "You assumed," he said. No one argued with that. We could feel the room settling into a different shape, one no one had planned for. I glanced down at my hands. They were steady. That surprised me. I didn't hide it. I said, "I just stopped correcting it." My father looked up sharply. "Stopped correcting what? The idea that it wasn't real?" Arthur let out a slow breath. "I thought you were showing up," he said to my parents. I really did. The silence after that was complete. I swallowed and lifted my head. It's been 9 years. No one spoke. The applause from earlier felt very far away now. My mother was the first to move again. She reached for her purse, then seemed to forget why her hand was there. 9 years, she said, testing the words. That can't be right. It is, I answered. Connor ran a hand through his hair. So you just bought a place and never told anyone? Arthur turned toward him. She did tell people. Connor's shoulders lifted, defensive. Then, how did we miss it? My father finally spoke, his voice low. We didn't miss it. He said, we just didn't think it was permanent. That landed harder than anything else. I felt a tightness in my chest, not sharp, just heavy. You thought it was temporary because it fit better that way. My mother shook her head. That's not fair. I wasn't accusing. I said, I'm explaining. Arthur stepped closer to the table, resting his hand on the edge like he needed something solid. When she called me about the flood, I asked if you'd been by yet. She said no. I assumed it was timing. My father looked at him. A flood. Arthur nodded. Basement took on water, ruined the drywall. She and her friends tore it out themselves. My mother's eyes flicked to me. You didn't tell us that. I mentioned it. I said, in the group chat. Connor pulled his phone out, thumb hovering. When late spring, I said. The year after you got the SUV. He froze. Oh, we're watching a moment where no one can find a place to stand that feels comfortable. My father's jaw tightened. If you were struggling, why didn't you ask? I took a slow breath, because every time I shared something real, it got smaller in the room. My mother pressed her lips together. We didn't mean for that to happen. I know. I said. That's kind of the point. Arthur looked between us, voice steady but firm. I didn't step in because I thought you were involved. I thought I was the backup. My father stared at the floor. We thought she was fine. I was. I said. I still am. Connor let out a quiet laugh that held no humor. You paid for all of that on your own. Not all at once, I said. Over time. My mother's voice cracked. How much did that place cost? $318,000, I said. Bought in 2016. Silence spread again, thicker now. My father exhaled slowly. And the down payment $48,000. Connor's head snapped up. From where I met his eyes. From saving. From not leasing cars. From not assuming help would come. No one interrupted that. My mother wiped under her eye with the corner of a napkin, careful not to smear her makeup. I didn't think it mattered, she said softly. I nodded once. That's what made it easier to let it go. Arthur folded his arms, looking at the room like he was seeing it for the first time. It mattered, he said. My father straightened his jacket, the way he did when a conversation started to feel unmanageable. Walk me through it, he said, just so I understand. I nodded, not because I owed him clarity, but because I was tired of carrying it alone. I bought the place in 2016. I said, Maple Ridge Drive, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, nothing fancy. Connor leaned against the bar again, but this time he wasn't relaxed. And the mortgage, $270,000. I said, 30-year fixed. My mother's fingers tightened around her napkin, and the payment's about $1,600 a month. Back then, they've shifted a little over time. My father did the math quietly. I could see it in his eyes. And taxes. He said, they started just under $5,000 a year. They're up to about $6,200 now. Connor shook his head once. So you've been paying all that. By yourself. Not magically. I said, monthly. On schedule. Sometimes early. My mother looked at me like she was seeing my face for the first time. We thought library work didn't pay much. It doesn't start high. I said, it grows if you stay. Connor frowned. You make how much $92,000 last year? I said, county system. Director role. My father blinked. Director for 3 years now. Silence again. Different this time. Thinner. Unsteady. Arthur cleared his throat. She lives below her means, he said. Always has. Connor let out a breath. So what have you put into that place? Total. I paused. Not to dramatize it, just to be accurate. Between the down payment, mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, and repairs, I said. About $330,000 over 9 years. My mother pressed her hand to her mouth. We've heard rooms go quiet before, but this one didn't collapse. It recalibrated. My father spoke carefully. And how much do you still owe $184,000? Connor stared at the floor. So, you've got equity, about $200,000, I said, depending on the market. My mother's voice came out small. And we didn't know any of this. I shrugged. You knew pieces. You just never stacked them together. My father rubbed his hands slowly, as if warming them. Why didn't you correct us? I felt something loosen in my shoulders. I did. At first. Arthur watched me closely. And then I realized it didn't change anything. Connor's jaw tightened. That's not fair. I'm not saying it to be. I said, I'm saying it because it's true. My mother looked between us, tears pooling but not falling. We thought you were fine. I was, I said. I am. Arthur nodded once. She didn't need saving, he said. She needed noticing. That line landed heavier than the numbers. My father swallowed. And the flood, he said. That year. I exhaled slowly. I paid the taxes late, I said. Didn't want to ask. Connor looked up sharply. That was the year Mom helped me with the car payment. My mother flinched. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The truth had already found its place in the room. My mother reached for her water and missed it by an inch. The glass tipped, sloshed, steadied again. No one moved to help. That year, she said, voice thin. Why didn't you tell us it was that bad? I kept my hands on the table. Flat. I told you it flooded. You said it was annoying. She said, you didn't say it was serious. I didn't know how to rank it. I said, compared to everything else. Connor shifted in his seat. I remember that spring. He said, that's when my transmission went. My father looked at him. We helped you with that. Connor nodded. Slower now. Yeah, you did. Arthur's gaze stayed on me. I remember the smell, he said quietly. Wet drywall. You tried to laugh it off. I smiled at him. Small. I didn't want you to worry. My father leaned back, hands clasped. Elise, you should have called us. I shook my head. I didn't want to explain why I needed it. My mother frowned. Explain what that I was doing fine, I said, until I wasn't, and that I didn't want that to become the story. Connor rubbed the back of his neck. So you paid everything yourself. Over time, I said, piece by piece. Arthur nodded. She and her friends ripped out the walls, borrowed tools, took turns. My mother's eyes widened. You didn't hire anyone. Couldn't. I said, not then. My father's voice softened. How did you cover it? I hesitated, then shrugged. I delayed the tax payment. A few weeks. Paid the late fee. Moved things around. Connor's face tightened. That was the same month you co-signed my lease. My mother inhaled sharply. We can hear it now, the sound of connections forming where there used to be space. My father closed his eyes for a moment. You were choosing between things. Yes, I said. Quietly. My mother reached for my hand, then stopped herself halfway. We would have helped. I know, I said. That's why I didn't ask. She looked confused. That doesn't make sense. It does when help comes with attention, I said. And attention doesn't stick. Arthur shifted closer to me. I thought they were there, he said. I really did. My father looked at him, shaken. We thought she was independent. I am, I said. That wasn't the problem. Connor leaned forward. So what was I took a breath? Every time I needed something, it felt like it would become a comparison, or a footnote, or a lesson. My mother whispered, We didn't mean to make you feel that way. I know, I said again. That's why it lasted so long. Arthur placed his hand over mine, firm and steady. You carried it because no one told you to put it down. My father stared at the tablecloth, then up at me. Elise, he said, voice rough. We failed you. The word hung there. Not dramatic, just accurate. Connor swallowed. I didn't know, he said. I swear. I nodded once. I believe you. My mother finally let the tears fall. Not loud, not messy, just there. I don't want you to think you don't matter, she said. I looked at her, really looked. I stopped thinking about that part years ago. Arthur squeezed my hand. You shouldn't have had to. The quartet stopped playing. Someone announced dessert. The room around us began to move again, unaware of what had shifted at our table. I stayed where I was, breathing through it. The year I didn't ask hadn't broken me. It had taught me how to stand without leaning. And now everyone could see the cost of that. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin and took a breath that didn't quite settle. "Can I see it?" she asked. The house. I didn't answer right away. I pulled my phone from my clutch and unlocked it. The screen lit my hands. Arthur leaned in first, respectful, like he was being invited into a room. "Oh," he said softly. "You changed the cabinets." Connor shifted closer without asking. My father stayed back, arms folded, watching the screen more than me. I scrolled. Closing day. The front door before the paint. The living room with bare floors and borrowed folding chairs. My mother's mouth parted. "This was right after you bought it." "First week," I said. Arthur nodded. "I remember that chair," he said. "The one that wobbled." I moved to the next set. Drywall torn out. Fans running. Friends in old shirts. Hair pulled back. Hands dusty. My mother's voice came small. "You did this yourself with help." I said, "People showed up." Connor squinted. "Is that Thanksgiving?" 2 years ago," I said. "Potluck." The table looked crowded, plates mismatched, someone mid-laugh, someone else reaching for bread. My father cleared his throat. "You host it every year," I said, after I stopped coming home. The word home landed and stayed. We can feel the shift here, the quiet kind, when proof replaces assumption. I kept scrolling. The garden. Before and after. The pergola half built. Then finished. Lights strung. Snow on the steps. Summer again. Arthur smiled. "You kept the maple. Planted it the second spring," I said. My mother pressed the napkin to her lips. "I didn't know any of this." "I talked about it," I said. "You just didn't ask twice." Connor swallowed. "You never invited us." "I did," I said. "Once." Then I stopped. My father stepped forward. "Finally." He held the phone now. "Careful, like it might break. You look happy," he said. "I am," I said. "Here." He nodded. Slow. "You built a whole life." "Yes." Arthur gave the phone back to me. "They missed it," he said. Not unkind, just factual. My mother reached out again, then let her hand fall to her side. "I don't know how to step into this now." I locked the screen and slipped the phone away. "Slowly," I said. Or, "Not at all tonight." The room around us had returned to its rhythm. Dessert plates clinked. Someone laughed too loudly near the bar. Connor looked at me, eyes unsteady. "I didn't know how much you did." "I know," I said. I picked up my clutch and stood. Arthur rose with me, already ready. "We should go," I said. It's been a long evening. No one argued. No one stopped us. As we walked away from the table, the applause didn't follow this time. And that felt right. We reached the edge of the ballroom where the carpet thinned and the noise softened. Arthur's hand rested lightly at my elbow. Steady. Familiar. Behind us. My mother called my name. Not loud. Careful. "Elise. Please." I stopped. But I didn't turn yet. We didn't know how far it went. She said, "I know that doesn't fix it. I don't want tonight to be the last word." I faced her then. My father stood a step behind her, hands folded, waiting. Connor hovered near the bar, not coming closer, not leaving. "I'm not leaving because I'm angry." I said, "I'm leaving because I'm done explaining." My mother nodded, too fast. "We want to come see the house. Soon. Tomorrow. This weekend." Arthur shifted beside me. I felt the weight of his pause. I took a breath. "You can visit," I said, "but not like that." My father frowned slightly. "Like what? Like this fixes something," I said. "Or like you're checking a box." The words landed and stayed. My mother's shoulders dropped. We notice how moments like this don't break loudly. They thin out, the way air does when a door opens. I won't reopen my life for guilt visits, I said. If you want to know me now, it has to be slower, quieter, consistent. My father nodded once. That's fair. Connor finally stepped closer. I should have paid more attention. He said. I didn't. I know. I said. My mother pressed her lips together, then released them. We'll do better. I didn't argue with that. I didn't agree either. Arthur cleared his throat. It's late, he said. We'll go. My father reached out, stopping short of my arm. Thank you for coming tonight. I met his eyes. Congratulations on your retirement. That part was true. As we walked toward the exit, the music swelled again. Someone clapping at the wrong moment, laughter rising where it always had. The valet doors opened, cool air brushing my face. Outside, Arthur exhaled. You didn't close the door. He said. I didn't. I said. He smiled. You locked it. I looked back once, through the glass, at the room still applauding itself. Then I turned away. The car door shut. The engine hummed. The night felt wide. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. And that was enough to take with me. The house was quiet when we got back. Not empty. Just settled. Arthur took his shoes off by the door, the same way he always did, lining them up carefully. I poured water into the kettle and leaned against the counter while it warmed, listening to the low hum fill the space. You did good tonight, he said, not looking at me. I did what I could, I answered. He smiled at that and sat at the kitchen table, the same table we'd sanded down together years ago, the one with the small burn mark near the edge from when I'd left a pan too close to the surface. I never fixed it. I liked knowing exactly how it got there. We didn't talk much after that. The kettle clicked off. Tea steeped. The clock on the wall ticked in a way that felt louder than usual. A week passed before my parents came by. Just them. No speeches, no gifts. They walked through the house slowly, hands at their sides, like guests who knew better than to touch anything. My mother paused in the doorway of the living room. You built this, she said. Yes, I said. My father nodded. We missed a lot. You did, I said. And then we moved on. Connor came later. Alone. He sat under the pergola in the backyard, elbows on his knees, staring at the garden like it might say something first. I'm trying to figure out how to show up without taking over, he said. Start by asking. I told him. Then listen. He nodded. I can do that. Months went by. Not perfectly, but differently. They came once a month. Sometimes they canceled. Sometimes they stayed too long. Sometimes it was fine. Sometimes it wasn't. I didn't keep score anymore. One afternoon, I sat at the same kitchen table with a checkbook open in front of me. Property taxes due. $6,200 for the year. I wrote the amount carefully. The way I always did. Not rushed. Not tight. Arthur watched from the doorway. Paid on time, he said. Always. I said. He stepped closer and rested his hand on the back of my chair. This place, he said. It gave you room. I nodded. Room to stop waiting. That night, after he left, I walked through the house once before bed, not to check anything, just to be in it. The floor creaked near the stairs. The light over the sink flickered once before settling. This life didn't appear all at once. Elise Warren built it slowly, quietly, without an audience. Knowing that changed how I stood in my own space. I wasn't bracing anymore. I wasn't rehearsing explanations. I slept better. I spoke less. I listened more. If this moment feels familiar, it's okay to sit with it for a while. Some stories don't ask for a response right away. We stayed with Elise until the house went still again, and then we stepped back, letting her keep the life she'd already learned how to hold.